Arthur Conan Doyle wrote The Lost World in 1912. When the British Empire was terrified, it had already mapped everything worth finding, and Doyle gleefully handed them a brand new continent. He'd made his fortune solving murders with logic. Now he wanted to shake the dust off science and see what happened when reason stumbled into the jungle. The result was a novel that feels equal parts adventure, satire, and midlife crisis in khaki shorts. At the center of it all stomps Professor Challenger, a man who treats modesty like a contagious disease. He's the sort of scientist who could win a Nobel Prize and then punch the committee for hesitating. Challenger believes dinosaurs still exist, and he's prepared to ruin his career, his reputation, and anyone else's day to prove it. He's a glorious monster of ego, half Galileo, half gorilla. Enter Edward Malone, a young journalist with more enthusiasm than sense. He volunteers for Challenger's expedition mostly to impress a woman who says she could only love a man of great deeds. Rather than buy her flowers, he decides to risk death by pterosaur. He narrates the story with the earnestness of someone who hasn't yet realized that all heroes eventually become column inches. Joining them are Professor Summerlee, the academic wet blanket who sulks like a Victorian cat denied its saucer of cream, and Lord John Roxton, an adventurer so suave he could probably charm a crocodile into offering directions. Together, they march into the Amazon to settle a scientific argument the way all British gentlemen prefer, with bullets and bravado. Doyle clearly knows what he's doing here. He's parodying the imperial ego while also feeding it steak for breakfast. When they reach the plateau, the story sheds its tweed and turns prehistoric. Doyle's Lost World is part laboratory, part nightmare, an evolutionary time capsule where dinosaurs and ape men still battle for dominance. It's as if Darwin's notes had a hangover and decided to start a theme park. The explorers are scientists, but they behave more like tourists with rifles, gawping at nature's leftovers while wondering how to claim them for England. Yet, amid the absurdity, there's a real pulse of awe. Doyle's medical background lends his monsters a strange believability. The biology is half right, which makes the fantasy half terrifying. The plateau isn't just a relic of evolution, it's a metaphor for humanity's refusal to evolve. Challenger's obsession becomes a mirror of the scientific ego itself, convinced that discovery is progress, blind to the destruction it leaves behind. Every member of the team unravels a little. Challenger's confidence curdles into mania, Summerlee's skepticism turns to panic, and Malone's heroism feels suddenly foolish. Even Roxton, the charming killer, gets a whiff of conscience. They think they've uncovered the dawn of life, but what they've really found is the unfinished business of being human. Doyle's humor is the secret engine here. He never lets his adventurers off the hook. Challenger's tantrums could power a small nation. Summerlee snipes from the sidelines like a disappointed tutor marking God's exam paper. Roxton fires at anything that blinks, and Malone dutifully takes notes as if the chaos will somehow sound respectable in print. It's ridiculous, and that's the point. Doyle lets the reader laugh at his explorers while also recognizing that we'd probably join them given the chance. Then there's the subversion nobody talks about. The Akala, the indigenous tribe caught in this clash of species. Yes, the novel carries the colonial tone of its era, but Doyle quietly flips expectations by giving the Akala agency, strategy, and firepower. In the final battle, they outthink everyone, using rifles to annihilate the ape men, while the British contingent watches in awe. It's still wrapped in imperial fantasy, but for 1912 it's startling. Doyle suggesting, perhaps accidentally, that civilization isn't the exclusive property of Europe. Stylistically, the book moves like a steam engine. Slow build, deafening whistle, glorious derailment. Doyle's prose is crisp, confident, and cunningly plausible. He throws in field notes, maps, and mock reports until you half expect to see the Times headline, "Dinosaurs verified, scientists confused, T still at 4." His mix of realism and absurdity laid the groundwork for everything from King Kong to Jurassic Park. Without The Lost World, Michael Crichton would have had to write The Somewhat Misplaced Lizards of Costa Rica. A century later, it's still disturbingly modern. The arrogance of conquest, the worship of science, the transformation of discovery into spectacle, it all feels familiar. Doyle may have dressed his explorers in waistcoats, but he could just as easily have put them in lab coats or startup hoodies. His real subject isn't dinosaurs, it's hubris. And that's what makes the ending so satisfying. Challenger returns home triumphant, waving proof before a skeptical audience that finally believes him. But the victory feels hollow. He hasn't conquered nature, he's just annoyed it long enough to get a headline. Doyle's final joke is that the real lost world isn't the jungle, it's the explorers themselves, trapped in their own illusions of mastery. More than a century later, the lost world still roars. It's a reminder that discovery is never just about what we find. It's about what we're willing to see. Challenger may have gone looking for dinosaurs, but what he unearthed was something much older and harder to kill, the human ego. Still roaring, still hungry, still pretending it's the future.